Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. Before we move on to our program and the political discussion, economic discussion, I want to go on and say that we strongly condemn, of course, the incident that took place in Sialkot, and I don't think that there are words enough to condemn what happened. As a nation, we all condemn it. Of course, we've seen the Prime Minister's statement on it also, and the fact that he has said that those responsible will be apprehended very soon enough. Very soon, and also the fact that this kind of vigilante attack that has happened will not be tolerated, all of those things. But it's important for us as a society that no politics should be played on an incident like this. Also the fact that there should be across the board condemnation, there should be across the board, of course we should see heads roll as far as this incident is concerned, and one hopes that that will happen. It can't be condemned, like I said, in stronger words. The image of Pakistan as a whole, as a nation, what it looks like internationally, what it feels like to be part of a country where this has happened, all of those things perhaps need to be looked at, need to be thought about. Before I go on to the political discussion, will be, I want to ask our guests how they see this incident, what they feel, could as a society be done for us to perhaps, not have an incident like this ever take place again, as horrific as it has been. I have with me Shakeel Ahmed Rame, who is an economist. Thank you for joining us today. We have also with us Rana Ehsan Afzal, who is leader PMLN. Thank you for joining us today. And Dr. Salman Shah, who is a former finance minister. Thank you for being with us. Ji, Shakeel Sahab, like I said, of course, this incident, like I said, there are no words. It's very horrific. How do you look at it?
I don't have any words. Simple as that. I think what we can say right now is a shock. So we are going through a shock right now. So I don't know how to explain it. Simply, I don't have words.
All right. Ji, Rana Sahab, if you'd like to say anything about what happened in Sialkot today.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you, Maruf. I believe that what happened shows what type of a society we're becoming in Pakistan. And I believe that, everyone has a right to defend whatever accusation has been labeled against them, whatever. So, and it is ironic that the slogans that were being raised, Labbaik Ya Rasulallah, are the slogans that I believe in, are the slogans that a majority of the Pakistanis believe in. But those slogans do not teach what happened with that man who was a foreigner and who had come here to earn a living. So protection of life is the duty of the state. And I believe that we need to realize as a nation that whatever crime one commits or anyone commits, whatever the intensity of it, they have a right to defend themselves. There is a certain, course of law which has to be taken. And if that is not implemented, there is no nation, there is no country. I believe that it's a sad day for Pakistan, and we need to think how we can, overcome these challenges.
There's no doubt that circumspection is really needed about where we are headed as a society and what's happening. Dr. Salman Shah, if you'd like to add anything before I go on to our other discussion.
I think I am incredibly saddened, and I see this as really damaging Pakistan, damaging the image of Pakistan, and also portraying Islam in a very, very negative manner that I think the whole world is going to look at us like as if we are barbarians. And I think this image will haunt us for a very long time. And I hope we can do something about this, because we have let things slip so much that this kind of mob, a kind of justice has to be totally eliminated in this country. I mean, we are a civilized country with a long civilization history, and we can't, I think this is not us. These people, unfortunately, They were Pakistanis, but they do not represent Pakistan, and I hope we are able to deal with this in a very effective manner.
Yes, certainly one hopes that, and of course, I think that you're right when you say that this is not us, this is not the Pakistan, that this is not us Pakistanis, and this does not in any way portray what Pakistan stands for. Moving on, Shakil Saab, we'll be talking about, of course, as far as politics is concerned, where the opposition is at this time, if they are anywhere at all, regarding their general, as far as the PDM is concerned. Of course, we've had a new date and what they plan to do, whether they are going to be able to provide any a challenge to the government, and also the economy at this time. We've had, of course, Shaukat Tareen say that it's moving in the right direction, exports, remittances, all of that, but is it really moving in the direction that we want it to move as far as the people are concerned? The inflation, price hike, which are the challenges that the government faces at this time. We'll also be talking about the mini budget and what it entails, and what it will mean for the ordinary people, for you and I, what it means in terms of price hike, inflation, will it increase? What are we looking at exactly? All of those things today. How do you see, let's talk about as far as the overall situation of the government and the opposition is concerned, and then we'll move on to the economy side of it.
I think government and opposition party and the ruling elite of Pakistan, they are on the same page.
Okay.
So they have, if I look at the common citizen, as you said, so it seems that they are not the situation not bothering them. So they are busy to play in their politics. And if you look at the opposition, so they are more concerned about their leadership and their cases, or the EVM, electric voting, and like these things. So they talk something about the people, but there is no action. The reason is that, I think my colleagues can explain on that. So everybody know, whoever would be in the government, they have to follow the conditionality which has been imposed by IMF, or we are taking a loan from Saudi Arabia.
So it doesn't matter who it is at this time
who it
in
is,
the government.
and that's why they will try to talk. They are trying to talk about that, but they are not able to present any concrete solution.
Okay.
So right now, if they are saying like that, remittances only give you the hope. Look, we have to look at the Roshan digital account. So what we are offering in that account? 7% interest rate. Before that, we are receiving remittances through the normal channels without paying any interest rate. Right now, we are paying a 7% interest rate. And I am also feeling like that, maybe I am wrong, 100% wrong. So interest rate in the European and the American and other countries is very low. Even in some countries, that is a zero. And for those countries, we are offering 7%.
Okay.
So maybe people are maybe investing in this sense. They are sending more money or taking a loan from their own banks and putting a bank in the Roshan digital account. So they from there they have to pay the zero, and they get under the 7%.
Right.
So in the direction sense, I think we need to look at that, what is happening on the production side.
Okay.
Either our industry is boosting, or our agriculture is giving them more productivity and the production, and surface sector, how the surface sector, that is kind of thing, but these two production sectors, because agriculture has the biggest potential to tackle inflation and the poverty in country.
Okay, let's talk about industry, agriculture, services, all of those sectors. Let's move on and talk about that. I'll come back to you. Rana Saab, we've had this conversation before. When the opposition criticizes the government, when you talk about the fact that you've gone to IMF, when you talk about the fact that the conditions as far as at this time, as far as the IMF are concerned, are very, very difficult for the people, the way that they are now being passed on to the people, all of those things. The point is, were it any other government, yours or any other, things couldn't have been different.
No, not at all. I think things could have totally been different. Okay. For example, this government has been claiming in the last financial year that they have, made some sort of victory, that the current account deficit is under control, and it is the first time in the history of Pakistan that it has happened. And then when the budget came, they announced that this is a growth budget. And then they went, they gave these different programs of turf and whatnot, and there was massive spending. They allowed amnesty for construction, and when the economy went into spending mode, the economy heated up, and then now we have a scenario where the trade deficit has reached 21 billion US dollars, and the biggest challenge is that you have to raise around 30 billion US dollars. 12 billion you have to pay in debts, and estimated 14 to 16, 17 billion current account deficit to sustain this year, to sustain the exchange rate. Otherwise, if it goes haywire, if the dollar rate goes haywire, it will bring another inflationary trend. So this has
Rana
been
Sahab,
created,
you
this
feel
mess.
so strongly about the economy at this time. The opposition feels so strongly about what's happening. According to you, the way that is being done is not correct. The direction is not right. All of those things, the delays. But why can't you unite as a joint opposition? Why is that failing miserably? If that's the right word to use. I mean, there are meetings and then new dates are announced. There seems to be a constant failure as far as the opposition is concerned to actually pose any kind of real threat to the government at this time.
I think the opposition is united when it comes to the parliament. When it was EVMs, the opposition was united, but they don't have the numbers in the assembly to, overthrow whatever's being brought by the government in the assemblies. Number two,
There were
when
10
you
members.
talk about,
There were 10. Even if the opposition was united, you had 10 members missing that day.
of course, I mean, we did our best, and that is what we could come up with. It should have been better. Was there, efforts being made for everyone to attend? Yes, they were being made. Our efforts, you see, every party has a different agenda. Some have a, for example, People's Party, they have a province, they have a government in that province, and they have different stakes than PMLN and JUIF and other, opposition parties. So when it comes to
that is
PDM,
primarily why you are unable to unite, you're saying.
No, we are united on certain issues, and on certain issues, there are some differences, which obviously, as everyone has different stakes. So,
Okay,
not
Rana Sahab,
every
we'll talk
decision-
about that. I will come back to you and talk about the fact that what are those things that you are primarily united on and the ones that are not, and do they somehow then override? And then I want to go, right now I want to go to Dr. Salman Shah. Salman Sahab, overall, how do you see the economic situation? I mean, of course, we are seeing this back and forth exchange, which I keep talking about, and unfortunately, it becomes difficult. I don't think it would be wrong to say for the ordinary person to actually decipher what the actual situation is, because all then they're seeing at this time is inflation, price hike. But are things moving in the right direction, in your opinion?
I think we need to understand that the economy is in intensive care, and there are a number of reasons for that. And not the least is the current external shock which the economy is suffering compared to even last year, and that is the energy shock and the commodities shock. And this is externally driven, which is happening all over the world, and that is affecting Pakistan in a very negative manner. And if you look at the last 4 months of this fiscal year compared to the last 4 months of last fiscal year, our energy imports have doubled. And almost the entire current account deficit is explained by our energy exports. And add to that the food imports, and that shows you where the problems are. Now, the energy export is something which, the energy imports is something which over the years Pakistan has never sought energy independence. We have not made any dams in the last 40 years. And during the last 10, 20 years, we have been going after fossil fuel to meet our energy needs, which mean that even the power which we use in our homes is imported. And whenever the fuel goes up, the oil prices double, and the coal prices double, and the gas prices go through the roof, then the people of Pakistan have to pay the price. And this was wrong policies adopted by many governments, but particularly since the last 5 years, I would say, when alternate energy, green energy was very important, we could have switched to solar energy, and we could have made a difference in terms of our dependence on imports. And right now, we only have about 1% of our total capacity as solar, whereas many countries who are serious about solarization have gone to 20-25% and even higher. So I think the structural deficiency in our economy is the energy sector, which is not only run by the government. All governments have run it. There is no competition in it. The institutions are fossilized, and the losses in transmission and distribution are enormous. The investments in transmission have not been made. We expanded the capacity in in generation, and that too we did it at a very high cost. We
Dr. Salman,
almost
when we
did
talk
not-
about when you talk about all of those things, when you talk about the fact how, you know, other than the fact that it's global, which is what you've mentioned, the other factors of the past contributing to where we are at this time, isn't this a circular argument in the sense that what are we doing different today then, and how long is it going to take for us to perhaps get on the path to getting things better, or are we already on it then?
I think the main thing right now is that we must get back on the IMF program, and it should not be subject to politics, because Pakistan, if it is unable to carry out this program, it will be very disastrous for the economy. Now, I think the whole world is looking at how Pakistan is going to deal with the IMF program, and in that context, you know, even Saudi Arabia support to us is contingent on the IMF program. Even China, in its support for Pakistan, always emphasizes that we should maintain a good relationship with the IMF and get the program done. And all
Okay,
our
let me come back to you. Let me come back to you. I'm going to go to Rana Ehsan. Ji, Rana Sahab, you heard what Dr. Salman Shah is saying, you know, as far as the past is concerned, which is contributing to where we are at this time. Of course, your narrative is different from this. You're saying that, you know, the successive governments in the past, what they have done, where we are at this time. Overall, you know, getting back on the IMF program, which is what Dr. Salman Shah is saying, should be the main priority of the government at this time. Can you hear me, Rana Sahab?
I'm sorry.
Please
Yes,
unmute
I
yourself.
agree with
Ji.
I agree with Dr. Saab. Currently, this year, we have planned to pay back $12 billion to our debtors, and then we need to cover the current account deficit. So when we estimate that amount, it ranges to almost 25 to 30 billion US dollars. So we have to raise that amount from the international markets and international donors. And without the IMF certification, that is impossible. And if we do not do that, then I think the exchange rate would go crazy. So obviously, we're stuck in a situation where if we go with IMF, they're going to obviously tell you to fix your problems. They're going to tell you to, take away the subsidies. They're going to tell you to raise your taxes. Obviously, that is also a requirement, but that will also bring inflation or pressure on, the current businesses. But sadly, the situation where we are in, that is the only way forward. So what we can do better is probably negotiate a better deal with them, but we have no other option but to go ahead with it. But why are we here, and what have we done in the last 3 years?
Well, according to him, it's because of the past.
Okay. No. I have to mention this. We have changed 6 finance secretaries. We have changed 7. We are on the 7th chairman of FBR. We have a 4th finance minister. So obviously, we have a problem where this government is unable to sustain the most important seats for the economy or the finance of this country beyond 6 months. So this has been a major
Rana
issue.
Sahab, isn't it
Then
rather simplistic for you to expect, or for us to expect, that if they were somehow able to have the finance secretaries or the finance ministers stick it out, we would not be in this big this huge of a problem that we are in as far as economy is concerned?
Of course. I mean, if you don't have a team, if you don't have people who can take their plans beyond 6 months, and after 6 months there is a new man on the job, obviously this shows that there is no planning. There is no long-term planning for this government, and they're just, going at, they're just, putting off the current fires. They're going ad hoc. There is no financial plan. There is no, ask the current government, what do you think the dollar rate is going to be today, or after 6 months, or after, a year? What is their planning for that? They, for 3 years, they did not have they did not give a growth budget, and suddenly they go beyond anything and give a big growth budget. And once, the economy starts picking up, obviously the trade imbalance starts, showing up, and then you have a problem where you can probably end up with a 15 to 18 billion US dollar current account deficit.
Okay,
But
let
then
me,
again,
before I go
you
to
are-
Shakil Saab, I want to go to Dr. Salman with this. Dr. Salman, how do you answer that as far as this change, which is what the opposition keeps talking about, this change in management, this change in finance secretaries, this change in ministers, all of that? Isn't it, in your opinion, simplistic to put it on this, and say that perhaps it is because there's no direction, or the government doesn't know where it's going, all of those things? Or do you think that as far as this government is concerned, the long-term planning is there, but then it will take time, which is what they're saying?
I think at least this government has not has been able to avert a default, and we were able to raise almost $10 billion outside the IMF program, and we averted default, which was imminent in 2018. We turned it into a current account surplus, and at that point in time, we managed Corona very well. The disruption which was happening in rest of the world did not happen in Pakistan. We maintained our supply chains in agriculture, in manufacturing, and in services to a certain extent. And therefore, it made a lot of sense to go for growth. The problem is that the global shock which hit Pakistan and the rest of the world, it was not even predicted in America and in England and Europe, and where you can see the devastation happening over there right now. So I think to say that you cannot project what would be the price of dollars 4 years from today, nobody can predict it. If my friend Rana Afzal can predict it, he would be a billionaire, and he will not be sitting here on this program. He'll be enjoying his billions somewhere. And I would like to be his partner. If he can do that, then we can have a joint company where we can manage the futures dollar rates. But anyway,
Rana Sahab,
being serious,
no, but
this
I think it means that
is a big one. It is, but I think the main thing is that you have a staff level agreement with the IMF. I think it's a reasonable agreement, and this thing that it can be renegotiated with the IMF is, I think, not really on the cards. Because IMF has seen in Pakistan that successive governments, they don't come up to the mark in terms of implementing the IMF program, and as soon as they get the money, then they leave the program aside. And a case in point, I think this is very important, and I hope you'll let me finish this.
Please go on.
In 2016, Rana Sahab would know it, if we've had a successful IMF program finished. And in 2018, 2 years down the road, we were on the edge of default. And the reason why it happened was that if you read the IMF report in 2016, it very clearly states in a message to the finance minister at that time and to the government at that time, that the economy is, even though you have finished the IMF program, the economy is in a very fragile state. And it would need very careful management, and you would need to avoid accumulating too much debt. You would have to continue with the stabilization programs, and you will have to improve your investment climate, improve your energy, do all the reforms. But what did we do? We appointed a new governor in the state bank who was a former finance secretary and a former chairman FBR. And we expect a bureaucrat who has been in finance and FBR to run the monetary policy of Pakistan by being the governor of the state bank. So that policy really drove us to default. If you look at the policy, the monetary policy from 2016 to 2018, with
Right,
fixed
okay.
exchange rate and accumulation of debt, we accumulated this debt, which Rana Saab just mentioned, that $12 billion is just the refinancing
Right,
element.
I know that Shakil Saab wants to comment on this and I want to come back to him, but Rana Saab I think has to leave, so I'll let him give his comments. Ji Rana Saab.
No, I'm here for the whole program, but the thing is, I would disagree on a few points raised by Dr. Saab. Number one, I think globally, in your region, the inflation is around 4 to 5% in the South Asia region. I'm including Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, and all these countries.
Okay.
And their growth forecast, for example, for India is above 8%. So, Corona has been a global phenomena, but countries have dealt in a much better way. Their economies have responded or rebounded in a much better way than Pakistan has. So, number one. Number two, that we were defaulting, I would disagree. We had a current account deficit issue, but apart from that, we had an economy which was at 315 billion US dollars. We had a growth rate of 5.5%. Now we covered 16 hours of load shedding. We faced 2,300 bomb blasts, suicide bombings in 2013, 2014 per annum, and we overcame that. And if we would have continued, we would have dealt with the current account problem immediately. But when this government came, there was a delaying factor. We actually saw that a finance minister, during the negotiations with the IMF, he was, he was changed. So if we would have continued, we would have dealt with it immediately. Number one, that current account deficit came because we were installing 11,000 megawatts of energy systems in Pakistan, and that was the need of the day.
Okay, Rana Saab, I will come back to you. Thank you so much for staying on for the remainder of the program. I will just come back to you. Shakil Saab has been very patient. Ji, Shakil Saab, I could see you wanted to comment on what...
No, I'm just enjoying their debate. So they are successfully diverting the attention from the real problem. So I was really enjoying. And the problem is that, Maruk,
Ji.
nobody wants to talk truth, speak the truth,
Ji.
or listen to the truth.
Ji.
So even this program, if you say something, so people will not allow you to continue on those comments because you are telling something that is a real problem.
Please continue.
No, I'm not saying you. I'm just mentioning. The problem we are facing,
Ji.
everybody know that it is not over the 3 years.
Okay.
It have the history of 3 decades. First, energy. When the power policy came in 1994,
Yes.
if Noon League wanted, they could change in 1997, they have the 2/3 majority. Our circular debt is due to that policy. Leave alone if we say the People's Party did not did well. So Noon League could change that.
They could have a lot of things with a 2/3 majority.
That I'm saying.
Ji.
So power policy, which is the prime cause of our circular debt and the energy crisis, because we established so many fossil fuel plants and we have to import the energy, but nobody changed. Even Salman Shah Sahab also served the different governments, so the policy is there. Second thing, we talk about this current account deficit with other things that we can take the measures what IMF saying. From 1988, IMF saying is same thing to Pakistan. It is not a new thing, so that we can say in the last 2 years they have started to talk about. What we missed, we did not concentrate on our expansion of economy. We concentrated on just slogans. Like everybody knows that. What is our backbone of our economy? Agriculture. Last year our production increased in the agriculture sector. We said, oh, production increased, but nobody told that the production increased due to increase in the production area, not due to the productivity.
Okay.
So that is a big question mark. And we have to face a problem on the cotton production because we have to shrink the consider a production area. So these are the policies, like just to throw, just to show off the something they are doing like that, it will not serve the purpose. Our ruling elite have to understand this, and now they are agreeing.
What do you think is the solution then?
Solution is look for your strength.
Okay.
Where is your strength? In the short term and the low hanging fruit, you have the two areas, agriculture and tourism. What you are doing for it? Either you are providing them the quality seed, timely fertilizer, and which are affordable.
But they're
Are
saying
you,
that they are. This government
this is
saying
saying lot. So everything, if we talk to any government, they're saying they're doing for the last 4 decades.
Okay.
Then why we are not getting the result? The problem is that if they're giving the quality seed, why our productivity is not increasing?
Okay.
Only production increase when we increase the production area.
Okay.
If they're giving the quality seed input, that is required. One thing, and second thing, they can go for the better establishment of the better exports for the agriculture products.
Okay.
Like we want to export meat, but we have the problem foot and mouth disease free, foot and mouth disease. China offered us to establish an area. What we did for the last 2 or 3 years on that? Did we nominate? Did we declare that area would be there for that purpose? So we claim we produce the best quality of the apple. Do we have the supply chain to provide the people with apples, like the vegetables? No, we don't have. So we need to invest on those areas. We don't need to talk every time.
Okay.
We need to look and take. I think we should follow what the Deng Xiaoping said: shut your mouth, move your hand. So we need to follow that policy. And one thing is, second thing, our ruling elite must have to keep in mind, if the economy is not going to perform, nobody would be in power. Because today you are begging to the IMF and Saudi Arabia. Tomorrow, if you are not performing well, they will refuse to give you anything.
Okay, so it doesn't matter. You're saying across the board, all governments need
They need to come out with economic agenda.
Okay.
But what we are saying, look, every political party say the economic agenda and the vision of my party leadership is best. They are not talking about the experts.
That's just political.
They are not talking about the experts. They are talking on the leader, and they present that the leader is a superhuman being who have every vision.
That's our style of politics. I think it's about. I'll go into that. I want to go to Rana Sabji. Rana Sab, I think it's a very pertinent point when we talk about reform, when we talk about all of those things, that need the kind of numbers that unfortunately this government doesn't have, and that's what they say. But you did. I mean, PMLN did have 2/3 majority. What did they do then?
Okay, so when we came into power, we had to deal with terrorism.
Okay.
We had to deal with.
I'm talking about
the shortage of
1997, not
electricity.
right now.
No. Okay.
He's talking about
let
1997.
me finish. So we had to deal with terrorism, shortage of electricity, shortage of gas. No foreigner. I'm from Faisalabad, so people to get export orders had to go to Dubai to meet their prospective clients. So we had to turn that all around. And the next stage was industrialization. The problem with Pakistan is the trade imbalance. So you have to increase exports, and you have to do import substitution. So this is the only way forward.
Does
So
this
for
not
that-
look like passing the buck, which is what's happening here? You're saying you had a lot to deal with. Of course, this government is saying that they've come into power the
I'll tell
first
you.
time.
No. We dealt with the current problems. There can be no industrialization without electricity. There can be no industrialization with shortage of gas. There can be no business if terrorism exists in the country. And you had to give so we turned that around. We brought the foreigners in. CPEC was launched, and the next step was industrialization. If we had continued that, so you need a trade policy. You need to identify sectors where you have comparative advantage, and then you need to incentivize investment for those sectors. So you could go for increase in exports, or you could go for import substitution. That needs to be done today, which is not being done. You have certain policies which are specific for textiles and not the rest of the industries, or not rest of the associations or sectors. So that needs to be done. I agree with the agriculture part. You need to go for better seeds, and you need to find where you can do exports. And so that is the need of the day. We need a charter of economy on areas which need to be excluded from the political infighting. So that
Okay,
all
let's
is
talk about,
required
yes,
today.
yes, okay, yeah. You're saying that we need areas which need to be excluded, in your words, from political infighting. And you're saying primarily, I'm talking about an economic charter, right?
Yes, of course, that is the need of the day. That should be done. Our leadership was talking about it initially
So
before,
what's the
everyone
problem?
was put behind bars.
So what's the problem? Why not go for it?
We have a prime minister who
You've
refuses to
boycotted,
talk with the
the opposition has boycotted even today.
No. The opposition is boycotted because the opposition is never heard. The opposition is boycotted because the Speaker of the Assembly refuses to give them their due time, refuses to let them speak, and when they do, there is a problem that we have a Prime Minister who refuses to talk to the opposition leader or even sit on the same table. So that is
Okay.
the issue.
Okay.
We were willing, but we have politics in Pakistan which have reached the heights of polarization. So that
Okay.
needs to be sorted out. And I think, if the government steps forward, even today, I think if he makes, I mean, he makes a attempt to move towards the opposition, there will be some kind of response. But sadly, we don't expect that happening anytime soon.
Okay, let me come back to you. Dr. Salman, let's talk about industry. In terms of the policies at this time, how do you see the way things are, the way that they're headed, the criticism that's coming from Rana Ehsan Saab? How do you see things?
Look, I
Specifically as
think
far as
number one,
industries.
immediate problem is let's get this IMF program going and let's try to complete it so that the world can see and the IMF can certify that we are credit worthy and we will honor our commitments. And also, we are open for investment and trade and all the international connectivity.
What
Secondly,
are
I
some of the
think
hurdles you think the government is facing at this time particularly?
the government is facing a lot of political pressure because of inflation and because of the narrative in this country that the government is not doing enough and they are not focusing on really what are the issues and what have to be done. Now, I
Okay.
think if we look at Punjab for the last 10 years, you had PMLN over here. We could have revolutionized agriculture. We could have revolutionized the seed chain, but we never paid any attention to agriculture. We could have industrialized Punjab from Sialkot to
Are we paying attention to agriculture now? Are we paying attention to revolutionizing, in your words, industry now?
Yes, I think, but it takes time because the agriculture transformation plan, which the Prime Minister has launched for the last 2 years, it involves getting the certified seed to the farmer and getting him the fertilizers and the inputs and also the Kisan card through which all the small farmers are bought on a platform in which you can provide them with all the inputs which are needed by the agriculture sector. Similarly, in the industrial part of Punjab, at least, we have started this program where we are upgrading all the value chains, starting with cutlery and surgical instruments, garments, leather products, because there are lots of hurdles in these value chains. The infrastructure requirements are immense. The certification of our products in global markets has to be done. For that, the institutions have to be put in place. So this is a lot of hard work, and this has to be done. Whoever comes in, because Pakistan is a very large country, we are the sixth largest in the world. We have a youth bulge. We should really benefit from that youth bulge. But for that, we have to really modernize everything. And that means that you need to work on the real things at the ground level in our districts. And for example, in the Punjab, for the first time, every district has a budget. And that is being distributed all across Punjab rather than just spending it at one place. And every district's competitive advantage is being evaluated and the infrastructure is being built according to that. Now, all of this activity has to continue for the next 10, 15 years at least before you will reach a level of infrastructure which is meant for production and output.
Which is
and
what
export.
Rana Sahab is talking about when he says that there should be an economic charter, or there should be areas which are above politics, so to speak. Do you think there's a chance that the government and the opposition can get to that point where we can have that charter or that agreement, where there's not that kind of discontinuation of policy, or there is that continuation that is needed, like you are saying, for 10-15 years, regardless of whichever government it is, so that we can deal with these recurring and consistent problems in the economy?
Well, if PMLN has people like Rana Hassan over here, yes, there is an opportunity. But we should really get professionals in our political parties. They should have a weight, and they should look at reforming the economy of Pakistan brick by brick, because that's exactly what is needed. So
You think we don't have enough professionals running the economy at this time, in your opinion?
I think our political parties don't have the kind of economic think tanks which they need to have, because the two big parties who have been in power for the last 30 years, you can hardly see any economists sitting over there looking at the work plan. I mean, other than PMLN, if you look at the People's Party, you don't see anything. They have a government in Sindh, but that is also devoid of any economic direction, and huge amounts of money is going to the provinces in terms of the National Finance Commission awards, and the money is not being spent on the infrastructure which will boost our economy. So look at Karachi, which is in a way our port city and an economic hub, and look at the condition in which Karachi is surviving. There is
Right, Dr.
no...
Salman, unfortunately we're running out of time. I want to take quick comments from Shakil Saab before I close.
I have no comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us. Shakil Ahmed Rame Saab, thank you for joining us. Rana Ehsan Afzal, thank you for being with us. Dr. Salman Shah, thank you for your very valuable input as far as economy is concerned. Of course, one or two important points as far as economy is concerned, as far as to put the country back on the right track, which is what, of course, the Prime Minister keeps talking about, the issues of price hike, inflation, all of those things to be addressed. There has to be one direction, which is what everybody here seems to think, and that direction has to continue. There needs to be continuation of policy for the next 10-15 years. With regard to that, can we have some kind of economic charter? Is it possible for the government and the opposition again to sit together and work towards that kind of agreement that doesn't involve passing the buck again in another 2 years back and forth, or doesn't involve passing the blame, so to speak, and works more on a joint solution which is targeted towards achieving the kind of growth we need in the next 10-15 years, regardless of whoever is governing the country. Let's hope that we can work towards that. Let's hope that we can devise a political culture that can perhaps work towards that can work towards constructive criticism and giving alternatives as far as the opposition is concerned. All of those things. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.